My name is Richard Eden, and I'm here to say I'm not home right now, so I must be gone away. Welcome, residents, to the Dr. DC podcast. My name is Producer Richard, and across from me is the Doctor himself.
Hello.
Each week, we talk about the weird and wonderful world of DC while fielding questions from listeners, just like you. Speaking of listeners like you, number 20.
God damn it.
20th review. And
I will honor my word.
And I was surprised at who this review was because I assumed they would have already have made one. Disappointed that it took this long, but excited that they were part of this.
We have no right to be disappointed in this person.
I just think that this person might need to be punished in some sort of way.
No. I don't know. I know where you're going.
This sexy person needs to be punished.
No, Mr. Gray will not see you now.
Kitty's been banned. That's right. If you haven't already guessed, Josh Gill gave us a review. Finally.
All right.
On iTunes.
Hey, do you know what? Come to think of it, have you given us a review, Richard?
Have you given us a review? Has your wife given us a review?
Hey, leave her out of this.
Has your baby given us a review?
Oh, my wife doesn't listen to this.
I know that you put your baby to sleep if you're not listening to this. So.
Well, yeah. I want her to know the sound of my voice. Because I've never... No. Jesus, that got too dark for me.
I want her to know the sound of her future father's voice.
Future father?
Yeah, me. Because I'm going to kill you. So Josh Gill gave us a review.
So many assumptions made.
With the subject, let's get nerdy.
All right.
And a 5-star review, Josh goes on to say, such a great and fun podcast that really celebrates all that is fun about DC Comics while really testing the Doctor's encyclopedic knowledge of DC. Aw. Perfect for anyone interested.
I thought you was going to say while really testing my patience as a listener.
Perfect for anyone interested in learning more about the specific topic, about a specific topic or character, or for anyone who just wants to listen to a couple of guys nerd out over their favorite comics. If timed correctly, this should be the review that puts it at 20 and forces the Doctor to watch Supernatural pilot. You're welcome. Thank you, Josh.
This is the one.
He actually wrote that puts it at 52, and I laughed hysterically, and I'm just like, we're not at 52.
How many actual reviews do we have?
20.
Yo, that's pretty dope.
I know. For this little podcast from Canada?
Yeah. Yeah, that was a Canadian accent.
Howdy, y'all. I'm Canadian.
I'm from Canada. At least that's what my new passport says. You might say I'm on the land.
You really need to keep this going, don't you?
It's like haunting my dreams. I can't shake it.
There's a young man who might also have some haunted dreams. Dreams which that may carve him into a figure of the night.
I was sitting with my wife the other day. We were like just joking around and like watching a movie.
You don't need to put your wife in quotations.
And she was doing like a funny voice, and I went to do a funny voice back, and that was all I could do. She was doing some like goofy voice, and I was like, "Oh yes, of course."
And she just got like a chill running over her body.
Yeah, yeah. I'm bad at improv. I get stuck in the bit.
No, why?
What?
Just never mind. You know what? Before we talk about the news, I want to talk about, since this is the last episode of Doctober.
Yeah. Nice.
I don't know. I couldn't think of any more scary sounds.
Just a fucking fart.
But it's a stinky fart. I like the ones that are like.
Sorry, so what did you want to talk
81 episodes in and we're just making fart noises. It only took this long.
What did you want to talk about?
Well, since it's Doctober and the last episode, I figured we're a few days away from Halloween.
Yeah.
Figured we should talk a little bit about, have we been consuming any sort of like scary media?
Sorts? Yeah, like actual...
Yeah, like I've just recently finished the Sabrina TV show.
Okay, and?
It's amazing.
You were excited about it. I kind of don't care.
I know. I've been nerding out about it with our actual previous guest from the Swamp Thing episode.
Really?
Yeah. Kels McNells is,
Nice.
and I have been chatting off and on about how much we love Sabrina.
Nice.
My pitch for it is it's Addams Family meets Hogwarts. Yeah. Do you not like either of those things?
I like both of those things,
Then
but I
what's the
don't want them
problem?
together.
There's chocolate in my peanut butter.
No, this is like chocolate in my pickles. I like both of those, but I don't know that they belong together.
Trust me, you watch it and you'll agree. It's very, very good.
Okay, I thought you were going to bring up. You had messaged me that you watched, what is it called, The Haunting of Hill House?
Oh God, Haunting of Hill House is amazing.
That one's good.
I'd say if you love the book, then you have to go into it not thinking this is an adaptation of that book,
right?
Because they take a lot of liberties and they make a lot of big choices that are different. And I think if you come into those with expectations, it's going to be the same or a very close sort of approximation.
Right.
It's not. It's its own thing. That thing is great.
Yeah.
But be wary of that. It's not a 1-for-1 shot of the book. But I think it's done so well. All of that to say, they do some amazing stuff from cinematography standpoint,
Sure, yeah.
the storytelling, the way they tie things together and call back to stuff from the beginning of it, things that make you like your kind of like head explode a little bit.
Yeah.
But the concept of it is basically they follow this one family who moves into this haunted house that their idea was they were going to flip it. That's what they do.
Right.
And you see the family when they were really young, and then it flashes forward to them like years and years, decades later, how it's impacted the family of living there, and it sort of slowly unfolds. And there's 5 siblings, and the first like 6 episodes are basically each episode is a story from one of those siblings, like their viewpoints of happenings and like where they are now.
Right.
It's really, really well done.
Interesting.
It's one of the best horror TV shows I've ever seen. Prior to that, I would have said the first season of American Horror Story. I didn't really like the ones after that.
I don't actually watch a ton of horror stuff.
Do you get in the mood? Do you consume any sort of like Halloween-y stuff in October?
Not a ton, but I have rewatched a couple of things.
Yeah, tell me about it.
I rewatched The Ring.
Ringu or
not the Japanese one.
No.
The one with like Naomi Watts, like the American remake.
Oh man, the first time you see the video, my God, that thing is scary.
And that first like American Ring movie is pretty good.
It is,
I like horror movies that lean a little bit more on the suspense side.
Oh yeah,
than strictly the jump scare.
That's the one thing that my wife and I were talking about. The Haunting of Hill House is they don't do jump scares at all.
See, I do like that. But I really like that Ring movie. I rewatched that recently. There's a movie that I like that's not expressly like a horror movie, but it's like a suspenseful. But it's called Animorph. It's
like the TV show.
No, not Animorphs. It's Animorph, not Animorph.
Is that like a B horror kind of thing? Like,
it's like a suspense like serial killer movie with Willem Dafoe playing this detective that's trying to solve the case of the Animorph killer.
Whoa.
And I really like that movie. I don't even think it's necessarily a great movie, but for some reason it strikes a chord. I really like it. So I've rewatched that recently. And you know what? We did watch the original Addams Family the other night.
That's fun Halloween watching.
That counts. So we did watch that, which is I enjoyed a lot. It had been a while since I'd seen it. I kind of forgot the premise of it, and I was like, when does actual Fester show up?
Oh, that's right. In the first, because I think that Addams Family Value is actually the superior Addams Family movie, but
I think it's a little bit more fun.
yeah, I think that's why where I go to Addams Family 4, but that first one is great. I think like what's his name's job as Fester is so good.
Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah. Oh, he's the perfect Fester.
But also like Raul Julia. He's such a good Gomez.
Oh yeah.
Angelica Houston's perfect.
Those two are perfectly cast as those parts. I think.
Actually, they're all pretty well cast. Christina Ricci.
That's right. As Wednesday.
As Wednesday.
Wait, is it Values where she goes to the summer camp?
Yes. Yeah.
That's so good.
That big pile of hair that plays Cousin It.
That's right.
Perfectly cast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. Yes. That unknown character actor.
But no, I mean, I don't actually watch a ton of horror stuff. It's not really like in my wheelhouse.
It's funny because I would never consider myself a horror guy,
right?
But I love a lot of horror. What I can't do is, I think for a long time I didn't think of myself as a horror guy because I don't like the gore.
Sure.
I don't like. My wife can deal with the horror pretty well.
I'm kind of there too.
I don't like the Saw movies. Like I just can't get through them. I did
like the first one. I like the first Saw movie.
It is good. I just like have a hard time getting through those parts.
Right.
I am like Hostel movies like that.
Yeah.
I can't like gore porn or whatever.
Sure.
I just can't do that. But I really like the suspense and like ghost. I loved the Paranormal Activity movies.
Oh, see, I like who?
You know, did you ever see them?
Yeah, I don't like found footage movies generally.
I
hate shaky cam. I've seen The Last Exorcism recently, and like fuck, like just put a camera on a fucking tripod.
I think
I don't need to see it like that.
There's very few movies that like make a purpose of it.
The original Blair Witch,
that's really good.
Like a whole concept that works, and then everyone just tried to like recreate the magic.
I still think that Paranormal Activity reinvented it and made a purpose of it. What they did with the second one, the 80s one,
right?
That is genius. Like being able to say like, okay, you don't have the same technology.
Sure.
Like how do you make a camera pan left to right? They attach it to a fan. So they can look to do two different rooms.
Right.
Using that for horror as you see the ghost appear and then like it fans away and then it gets closer when it comes back.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
That stuff I think was really,
I like
really
The Conjuring.
Good. Oh, The Conjuring is so good. That whole series.
Oh, what's the fucking one? Oh,
Insidious?
Oh, is it? No, it's not Insidious. There's one with Ethan Hawke.
I thought that was Insidious. No.
Is that Insidious? I thought Patrick Wilson was in Insidious. But maybe that is. There's one with Ethan Hawke, and it's like a Jewish golem kind of thing that like
it's really scary.
It lives in a film or something like that.
God, that movie is scary as
that one really. I really like that one. Whatever the fuck it's called.
I'm gonna find out now because I totally Sinister. God, that movie scared the shit out of me.
I like that one. Yeah, that's one that I enjoy.
Did you ever watch the Purge movies?
I've seen a couple of them, but not all.
I loved Election Year, the newest one. I hadn't really enjoyed the last
newest
couple.
One was the first Purge.
Oh, sorry, the first Purge. That's the one I loved. Yeah, the first Purge I just recently watched, and it might be the best one of the whole series.
Do you know what? I've had a conversation with Kelly about it, and she's sort of like talked me through.
Her and I have talked about it.
What's great about the Purge, and I'm kind of sold on it. I just haven't gotten around to it.
The first Purge is, you could just watch that one, I think, and you would like. The concept is so scary, and in this current political climate, it feels really possible.
What do you mean?
And I don't want to talk about it. It's going to be too scary.
What do you mean? Everything is fine.
Yeah.
Don't look anywhere, outside or online.
I tried to watch the Purge TV show, and the first episode's okay, but there wasn't enough.
I didn't even know there was.
Yeah. But anyway, so I think those gives people some examples of what you can watch. Or you can always just watch Casper. It's a great movie.
Casper's kind of fucked up, actually.
It is super fucked up.
Yeah.
The like way he dies is super sad.
There's some shit in that movie, man. Like I would almost argue it's not a kid's movie.
Yeah, the whole like sledding, freezing to death thing is real depressing.
No kidding. Jesus.
Yeah. Well, on that note, let's head to the news. On that cheery note, we got our first look at the Kitchen feature film.
That's right.
That's a Vertigo book, isn't it?
It is. And it's about these like Irish gangs based in Hell's Kitchen. That's why it's called The Kitchen.
Makes sense. Yeah.
They're kind of like the Irish Gang is almost like in the employ of the Italian mafia, but then
Oh.
like the male members go to prison, and then the women of the Irish Gang take over. So it's this like female led mob story. It's a Vertigo comic.
Is it a comedy?
I actually am not sure offhand because I haven't read it. Full disclosure.
I'm curious now.
But I think, I mean,
Melissa McCarthy's in it, so
like anything, I'm sure there's an element of it. It's probably a dark comedy, but
that would be my guess. No, I mean, it doesn't describe it as a comedy. It's a action crime drama.
ooh. Yeah, I'm kind of excited. I like the premise. I'm curious to learn more about it. I probably should read the comics.
I agree. All right, well, let's go to the next piece, which is the life and works of comic book illustrator Steve Ditko are coming to the stage early this November in Ditko.
The early November?
Oh, so emo. So good. I was trying to think of a song and I
know, I was too. I was like, oh, it's not happening. Ditko is getting like a stage play that's like about him. And his career in comics. Steve Ditko passed away this past year, but very famously, he's the co-creator of Spider-Man. He created The Question and Blue Beetle and Captain Atom and The Creeper and a bunch of characters for DC Comics. And also famously, like one of those like creative partners of Stan Lee that kind of got like shit on and shoved to the side. The play has a Stan Lee character in it.
Oh, I'm wondering how he's treated in it.
I think this play goes up in Rhode Island. I don't know if we have any listeners in Rhode Island, but try and check this play out.
Yes.
It's happening, I think, like 2 weeks from now or like a week and a half from when you hear this.
As a man who works in theater, maybe you can purchase this and bring it up to...
Well, do you know what's funny about that is now this is the second play kind of in my sphere of awareness about people that have been shit on by Stan Lee.
It's almost like he was a bad guy.
I used to write for a different like comic book website, and I got to interview Fred Van Lent and Crystal Skillman about their play King Kirby about Jack Kirby.
Yes, that's right.
And actually, my interview with them is in the front of their published edition of the play.
Wow.
So you could say,
hey, Joe, you want to just rub that off your shoulder?
No, I'm going to keep it there.
Okay. What could we say?
I was going to say something really shitty. Like, you could say I basically contributed to the play.
I mean, considering I'm on the front page, some might think that.
But yeah, so I am curious about this Ditko one because I really liked that. I like these plays about like an artist's life and process or things like that, right? Like even about like visual art. Like there's a play called Red that's about Mark Rothko, and like there's a bunch of really good. I feel like it's good material for the stage, but also, comics are so visual and theater has really bent more into the world of like projection, multimedia, things like that. Like, I actually think it's a good time to explore where those two things meet.
I heard that apparently the SpongeBob one is really good.
Play?
Yeah.
Like a musical?
There's a musical
of SpongeBob?
Apparently it's really good too.
I mean, I haven't even heard of that.
Yeah. It's on Broadway right now. Apparently it's really good.
Like Hamilton?
Yeah. Wow, not like the same.
You said it so confidently.
Yes.
Exactly.
The same.
Yeah. Interesting. But yeah, so if you're in Rhode Island, check out this Ditko play.
I'm like, yeah, and let us know.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Take your camera phone and record it.
How fucking dare you?
And then sell it on
the most important thing to remember is when you leave the play, you're going to want to go through the alley to get back to your car.
The murdered parents' alley. Jesus Christ. All right, next on the docket, original animated Teen Titans will return in Teen Titans Go vs. Teen Titans.
This is not the first time that the original Teen
Is this a movie? What is this?
I think it is, but it's not the first time that the original cartoon of Teen Titans will be like incorporated into Teen Titans Go. Teen Titans Go had a character called Control Freak who basically like he was like a TV based villain, and he could like he said that he was the one that rebooted them from like a more serious animated series to the silly, you know, cartoon that Teen Titans Go is. I mean, you've seen those versions if you watch Teen Titans Go. They pop up a couple of times, but yeah, there's like going to be like a proper sort of meeting of the two happening, which is hilarious. I love it.
That's amazing. So, what are you expecting or hoping for from this?
I think it's going to be pretty irreverent. I mean, that's sort of the tone that Teen Titans Go sets. So I have to imagine if you're doing a thing that's bringing in that more serious cartoon, it's probably going to be, you know, a bit more sort of meta commentary about like comic books and comic book movies taking themselves too seriously and that sort of thing. Yeah.
You've been watching the TV show, haven't you?
Yeah, I fucking love it. It's so funny.
We haven't seen the movie yet, have we?
I haven't seen the movie yet. I saw a clip though where they apparently in the movie they recreate the beginning of The Lion King.
Really?
Yeah, there's like Green Lanterns like jumping like gazelles. And then
my god!
It's like Robin is Simba. Like,
that's really funny.
Yeah,
we'll have to watch it.
It's pretty cute. Yeah.
Next is John Wesley Shipp returns as 90s Flash for Elseworlds crossover. So you freaked out of this literally the minute we stopped recording last episode.
Yes.
You read this on your phone.
Because as soon as we're done recording, I'm on my phone and not talking to you again.
Yeah, God, no. What are you going to think? We're going to look at each other? You're going to speak to each other? No.
But yeah, basically, as soon as we stopped recording, that's when I saw this image. So Elseworlds, you know, we know that there's going to be lots of parallel earthing.
This is the Arrowverse crossover this year.
Yes, exactly.
They've just like been filming lately.
What a huge drop that John Wesley Shipp, who plays, you know, he's played Henry Allen / Jay Garrick in The Flash.
Yeah.
In the current series. Mm-hmm. But he was the Flash in the 1990 CBS series.
Which Flash is that? Is that a Barry Allen?
It's Barry. He's Barry Allen. So, but his Barry Allen in the original 1990 suit and everything is in this fucking crossover.
Do you think
I'm so excited.
Do you think this is going to be like this version of Barry Allen as like an older Flash?
I think so, yeah.
That's really exciting.
Yeah. I think it's so dope.
Of course, it makes so much sense because that's his dad, and of course, that's who he turns into. God, of course, that makes so much sense. And he's in the original costume.
Yeah, yeah. It looks so cool. The way this crossover is going, like if they kept like, you know, there's obviously limited time and resources, but you have to imagine that if they had sort of like movie budget, like months and months and months to work on it, that they would have found a way to be like Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne, you're in there.
Oh my god!
Like Linda Carter, Wonder Woman,
The Expendables, like
Tom Welling, Smallville, get in here.
Oh my god! Yes,
I sort of get the sense that if they had like all of the
time and money in the world,
all the time and money, this crossover would have just been like, let's put every fucking thing together and have a good time.
I will say that I've been rewatching The Flash, I think, as I've said in previous episodes.
Have you finished season 2 yet?
Yes, I've done season 2. I was trying to slog through season 3. I think this is I just got to the crossover event. God damn, it's hard to get through that episode.
What, Invasion? Is that the one?
Yeah, I do not enjoy it.
Well, it's all right.
It's just, it doesn't feel like the best of any of the characters.
Right.
It feels sort of this sort of unfun, half-cocked version of all of this. And maybe was this the first one, or had they? Because I know they did like Flash and Supergirl kind of a crossover, but well, how many crossovers have they done?
The first season of The Flash, they did Flash versus Arrow.
Yes,
right.
Guess that
second
counts.
Season of The Flash. What did they do?
Supergirl? is that in season 2?
Well, yeah, but it was a separate thing. Season 2 had a different Arrow Flash crossover.
Oh, okay.
I think. It's
hard to know, but this is the first like big one with everybody, right?
Yes. Season 3 is the first time that like Legends and Supergirl are folded in. And then season 4 crossover was Crisis on Earth X, which is amazing.
That's what I'm looking forward to. I think that they didn't know how to do the crossover in this first one.
Because that one, it was just like you were watching episodes of each show that's like highlighted their cast, but it was part of a bigger story.
Yeah.
And then Crisis on Earth X was basically just like a 4-part movie.
Yeah.
They didn't really give a shit about what time slot was what. Like,
exactly.
This is Arrow, but it wasn't really an Arrow. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So, one thing, going back to this Elseworlds one, it's to think of a Flash that's also a fucking tank, the way that John is.
Oh, I know. He's huge.
He's such a
ripped.
beast.
And that suit, too, has like so many abs and shit like
He just looks like a monster inside of that. Yeah. It's so, like, that's a Flash that I do not want to fight with.
Looks like someone's been dipping into the strength force, right?
I do not like seeing Stephen Amell as Flash, though. It looks weird.
It looks like they didn't make a suit for him.
No,
like he's just putting on
like
Grant's
a costume.
Suit.
Yeah. Like he put on a Halloween costume from the Flash.
That's a weird one. But Grant Gustin looks good as Arrow.
Yeah, because he looks like
Green Arrow.
He looks like Robin Hood or something in it. That's why I think it works. I think
there's so many things in there already, right? And Batwoman and
God, Batwoman looks so cool. Have you seen a photo with her
and Black Suit Superman and
seeing Batwoman next to Supergirl?
Yeah,
I'm just like, she looks like such a badass.
I'm very excited for this crossover. It's gonna be a ton of fun.
I'm really looking forward to it. All right, next is Lobdell, and oh god, why did I choose this? Lobdell and Nasiza?
I don't know how to pronounce the
Nasiza? Yeah, I'm going to keep saying the same thing over and over again because I'm crazy. Whatever. Lobdell and Nasiza mold Rick Grayson as new Nightwing. So we got a new Nightwing.
Well, we have a changed Nightwing. Nightwing, do you know what? I left a bit of a detail out of, remember last week we said Batman broke KG Beast's neck.
Batman broke KGB neck.
Yeah, the detail I left out is that KG Beast is the one that like sniped Dick Grayson, shot him in the head.
Oh, really?
And Dick Grayson is basically like he doesn't have amnesia, but like the memories of his time as Robin, as a Titan, as Batman, as a member of the Justice League,
Rick
they're kind of faded. They're not necessarily gone, but yeah, he's going by Rick Grayson now.
Also, as a Richard, spelling your name as fucking Rick with R-I-C and no fucking K. Are you kidding me? That's Riss, if anything.
Sorry, it's what?
Riss.
Riss?
Well, it's not rice because there's no E.
Clearly not rice. Your argument that well, it's not rice. It's got to be Riss.
Yeah.
Who's with me?
Right?
Yeah, so Rick Grayson, I think...
More like Dick Grayson with a name like that.
Well, I think people who are fans of Dick Grayson are having a very, very hard time
really?
with this. Because...
They want him to be the same?
Well, not even that, but they just want him to be that character. You can still grow and learn and things like that, but...
They're just washing away what he was.
There's an interview with Scott Lobdell, and we know that I do not necessarily think he's a good writer. Or that I don't necessarily like his stuff.
He's good for gore, I think.
But... I can appreciate maybe what he's aiming for, which he said, like when they paralyzed Barbara Gordon, Oracle became a character that transcended what she had been before with Batgirl. It was something new and different, but became as meaningful or more meaningful than her era as Batgirl. And he's like, I don't know how long I'm going to be writing Nightwing, but as long as I am, I'm going to try to flesh out Rick Grayson and make him as meaningful a character as I can. I can appreciate that as like as a target, as something to shoot for.
Yeah.
But from everything I understand thus far, he's not really winning people over. But who knows? I mean, you got to give it time. Like maybe this thing becomes really interesting or whatever. But yeah, the initial impressions I'm getting are that we just want Dick Grayson back.
Yeah. Well, this next piece of news I'm very, very excited about. The studio behind Arkham Origins is creating a couple of DC open world games.
Right. So this is WB Studios Montreal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they just mentioned it offhand that they had a couple of like open world DC universe things in the pipeline. They didn't really give any more detail than that. Now, Arkham Origins was sort of notoriously buggy as a game, but I think it had the best story of any of those Arkham games.
Oh, I totally, yeah.
Narratively, I think it's the strongest of them. And I did enjoy that game. I don't know if maybe it's just buggy because it was rushed or what. So I'm not like not excited, but like we're still waiting on Rocksteady too to like say that they're making something. Like no one seems to be pulling the trigger on what the next sort of comic book DC game is.
For me,
Plus, I think any ideas that were in the pipeline, everyone's got to be like, is this going to be good enough now that Spider-Man is out? Because that PS4 game is insane.
I mean, to compete with that, no wonder nobody wants to say anything, because now that that's out, like
I've got to think that that's part of it.
It's tough to compete with. For me, I'm like the idea that we're going to get some DC open world games coming up. Like,
yeah,
there's been few and far between.
Do you know what I'd love for an open world DC game?
What?
It's the fucking Flash.
That's so hard to do, though, to create that speed.
But imagine if you even if you do it kind of on templates, but you make like 3 or 4 different big open world cities.
Yeah.
And then you have to fucking flash between them. Like, go to different cities around the world, save the day, go to a different city,
yeah, I think that they would just have to really, they'd have to really find a good way of
run up buildings.
And
through and like,
it could be done. It totally could be done. I think just doing it in the streets would be really difficult.
Sure.
You'd have to
you'd also have to do it in the sheets.
You son of a bitch. I think you just need to be weary of creating that. I think there's no way that they could do it with the actual speed that he can really reach. Like, I don't think.
Oh no, of course not. But that's also true of Superman or whatever, right? Like the mechanics are always.
That's why they don't really lean on that in any of the Superman games. But Superman has all of those other things that you can lean on.
Yeah.
It's all about the Flash's speed.
I mean, I guess you're basically just making God of War, but I was about to say it'd be cool to do like a Wonder Woman game where she like goes through Greek mythology. I was like,
yeah,
that's just God of War, but
which that game is amazing. But for me, I think Green Lantern really has a lot of opportunity. I think you can't
open world or open universe.
I think
that's No Man's Sky.
Oh god, that garbage game. No wait, no thank you. For me, I think you could totally do Green Lantern. The only issue is that you couldn't obviously have the creativity that Green Lantern really has.
Yeah, that's the tough thing there. Is like, but you can probably make some mechanic where you learn how to build certain types of constructs and then you can put them together. You know, like how in The Last of Us, you're collecting different things and then you figure out how to, tape a thing to another thing and make a shiv or whatever.
Totally, yeah.
Maybe there's some sort of mechanic like that for Green Lantern where like as you're learning how to use the ring, you learn how to make a certain type of construct and then a certain type of other thing. And then you can put those together. It's like, now I can make a boom.
Yeah.
Like maybe you could do it that way or something. That'd be kind of neat.
I think the one that we probably both want the most, though, the Aquaman game.
Clearly.
That's a game you could really easily do it, I think, and it would make it would be so good.
It'd be awesome.
Like, you could go above and below the water and do stuff on land and then move down to the ocean and
So WB Games Montreal,
we know you're always
listening. You're listening. Can you make all like 6 of the games we just pitched?
If that's not too much to ask.
No, it's pretty reasonable.
Now I'm afraid of talking about this next piece because I know where it's going to go.
Oh, I know which one you're. Oh, yeah.
The new Joker movie is cast young Bruce Wayne and Alfred.
So I think we can say bye-bye to Mr. and Mrs. Wayne.
Clearly, who's going to deal with this menace of society?
Well, I'll have a suit in the basement if only I had someone who could fit into it.
I have an 18-year plan that begins with a little bit of blood.
Yeah. I mean, this Joker movie, I'm more and more interested in.
But isn't this weird to have?
But this, I'm actually
timeline now.
But we always knew it was going to be its own thing. But my bigger issue with it now is like
no Batman.
No, but like, why would do you put Bruce and Alfred in there for like?
I guess it makes sense. I
guess they haven't put Thomas Wayne in there, but I was like, are we literally going to watch the Waynes die a fucking again?
Oh my god, I fucking hope not. I hope this doesn't like end with that or something.
Like, it would be amazing if they could make a Batman movie where you don't see the Waynes die.
That alone, I would like standing ovation. But I get why they're doing this, because if you're gonna do a Joker movie, you need to not have Batman in it.
I don't know that that's true. I was kind of hoping that we'd get a little bit of like maybe just see him as a shadow, that he doesn't save him as the Red Hood or whatever, and he falls in the acid. I was kind of hoping for a little bit of that, but like whatever, it's fine. But so this makes Joker quite a bit older than Bruce,
which I thought that was the case.
Yeah, maybe.
I thought that was the case in general.
In the comics?
Yeah.
Not necessarily. I mean, he's likely older than Bruce, but not like that.
Yeah.
Like Joaquin Phoenix is like... he would
have to be in his 50s or 60s when he actually becomes Batman.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Because Joaquin's, in his like early 40s, late 30s.
Is he only that young?
I thought... let's find out.
I thought he was like 50.
No, I don't think.
But even if he's playing younger,
44.
I mean, the point still stands that I mean, the casting doesn't say too much to me, other than like, fuck, do we need to watch like another fucking flashback of?
I know, of the greatest moment
we know
a butler ever lived.
Yeah. Oh, that is inspiring. look, Master Bruce, how he hides himself in a costume and behind a mask. Don't you think you could also make a difference that way? No, I just want to play with Mom and Dad. It's like, oh, you want to play with Mom and Dad, do you?
You're playing that blood.
What? Jesus Christ! You don't play in their blood. You maniac!
That was before he was named Bruce, when he was originally called Dexter. Yes, Bruce, your dark passenger will take you very far. A villain so great must have a hero to defeat it.
Yeah. More chin-ups. It's the only way to move past your grief. Fuck me. Yeah, there seem to be lots of versions of young Alfred floating around out there, so...
Well, let's head into this week's theme.
Yeah.
Which is Blackest Night.
Specifically, yeah.
The blackest of nights.
Starring Martin Lawrence. So I gave you last week, let's begin with some of the doctor's prescribed reading. I gave you Blackest Night.
That's right.
Which is, it collects like Blackest Night 1 to 8, and then like some issues from Green Lantern Corps and from Green Lantern, but not the full event. The full event had tie-in issues across a bunch of different series, and they did this thing where, so it's like essentially it's DC's zombie story, but they did a thing where they quote unquote resurrected titles. Yeah. So like comic books that didn't have an issue for years, or in some cases like decades, got a new issue that was tied into Blackest Night. So they did, like, it was a whole big event, spanned the entire DC universe. But I gave it to you to read. Why don't you give us a bit of a synopsis? Why don't we talk through the actual story first, and then we'll talk about whether like what you liked or didn't like.
Yeah, absolutely. So some of it was difficult to follow. I think at the beginning for sure. I mean, so they begin with you're getting glimpses of these different funerals for superheroes across the different cities.
It's like a superhero remembrance day, basically. They're not necessarily active funerals, but yeah, it's basically like a memorial day for superhumans.
Yeah, and so you get to see sort of like everyone sort of talk like was this after Final Crisis? So
yes.
You're sort of dealing with the repercussions of Final Crisis as sort of we've lost Batman.
Yeah,
we've lost. We've who else?
Martian Manhunter.
Martian Manhunter. That's right. Yeah, we lost Ronnie.
Ronnie had died earlier. He died in Identity Crisis, but I mean, we're things that had happened for the previous 5 or 6 years.
Is it Hawk Girl we lose or Hawk Woman? Sorry.
Not yet. Not off the bat.
No, because we have a new Hawk Woman. That's why, right?
Shayera is gone, but is reincarnated as Kendra Saunders.
Yes. So as just some of you CW fans, that's the current version.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you're dealing with sort of the growing pains of having a new Hawk Woman.
Yeah.
You're seeing glimpses into like Coast City as the Green Lanterns come flying in and doing this big sort of like show of we've got like the 4 Green Lanterns at the time.
Yeah.
So we've got Guy Gardner, Hal Jordan. I'm gonna have to look at the other ones. I don't remember the other. Kyle Rayner.
Yep. John Stewart. That's right. So the four corpsmen. Yeah.
Yes. Goddamn. I almost had it. And so here's a question that I had because I didn't know. I don't know where this book sits and under the under whose title this is. That's the question that I had. Is this a Justice League book or is this a Green Lantern book?
So because it's an event, it was its own book.
Mm-hmm.
So there's Blackest Night issues 0 to 8.
Okay,
but it's a Green Lantern story. But
that's what I was wondering. I'm like, is this a Green Lantern story? Because it seems more. It's definitely focused on Green Lantern.
Oh, totally. It's absolutely a Green Lantern story, and the Green Lantern issues and the Green Lantern Corps issues that tie in are part of the main story. But there were tie-ins across every title: Justice League, Booster Golds, just like Batman, Wonder Woman. Every title had a tie-in to this. It spanned the entire universe, but yeah, it's definitely Green Lantern centric.
So, a big part of this is sort of the slow understanding of where Batman's at.
You're right.
And it begins with the Black Hand getting Batman's skull.
Yes.
Bruce Wayne's skull, I guess, technically, from a grave and carries it with him. And the Black Lantern power battery sort of begins to charge at that point.
Yeah.
And so you see this sort of this Black Lantern charging throughout the whole sort of book as it sort of slowly is cranking up. Which I love that idea too. I think that's really
it's like the ticking bomb.
Exactly.
Kind of thing, yeah.
And then you're seeing I'm just reading some notes so that I can remember where I was at. Because I'm not going to remember all. There's a lot of working pieces throughout this.
Oh yeah, it's a dense book.
And coming in it cold without didn't read Final Crisis before, didn't read the Sinestro Corps War,
right.
Not having read those going into this, you're just like, oh shit, like
yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on and a lot of stories that they keep jumping from piece to piece to piece to piece. Like you're with this hero, then you're with that hero, then you're with this. You find which is really interesting actually. One of the things that's coming into the 3rd season of The Flash, it's really interesting reading this book because this is kind of where it's at in the book too, is Flash coming from being stuck inside of the Speed Force.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's yeah. There are similarities. That's true.
For sure. So for me, there was also a little fatigue for me being like, yeah, I get it. Like you regret like going back in time and like.
So he hasn't done Flashpoint
no, but it feels very Flashpoint-y, right? Like.
Well, basically, one of the other events that leads into this is like Flash Rebirth.
Yeah.
Where Barry returns from the Speed Force after 20 years. He disappeared during the original Crisis. And then he returns out of the Speed Force. That's the story that like retconned that like Reverse Flash went back in time, killed his mom and stuff like that. But Barry is basically freshly returned to the universe.
So next, after sort of you see the Black Hand taking the skull, we get a shot of the Guardians of Oa, and they're coming around this circle, and they're observing the War of Light.
Yeah.
And realize that is it Ganthet?
Yeah,
Ganthet
yeah.
And Sade.
Yeah, Sade.
Sade are correct, but are kept sort of from intervening by Scar.
Yeah.
Right? I'm getting this. Okay. Who swiftly kills one of the imprisons the rest.
Yes.
Yes, he kills one and imprisons the rest.
Scar
of them.
is one of the Guardians who kills another Guardian.
Yeah, but it's a really brutal, bites him, much like you'll see many times throughout this book. It's a zombie book.
Yeah.
J'accuse. And then thousands of sort of black rings are sent across the universe.
Yeah.
So that's your first sort of idea of what's going to be happening throughout the rest of this book. I love the way that they break it into these different parts of the book, and it feels like it's constantly like cranking up towards something. Yeah. And then you start getting this sort of the beginning storyline of the Flash and Green Lantern working together, and the sort of like their sort of tumultuous relationship, which is really interesting.
Yeah, I mean they're old friends, Hal and Barry,
but they also like give each other shit.
Oh yeah, totally.
Which I thought was really good. And then they start to investigate sort of Bruce Wayne's grave, and are attacked by the Black Lantern, Martian Manhunter.
Yeah.
So that's your first sort of idea of what these black rings are going to heroes.
Yeah, so it's essentially those Black Lantern rings that fly out everywhere reanimate the dead. They don't resurrect them.
Yeah.
It's like corpses. They're like rotting and that sort of thing. But they reanimate the dead. And so, you see them get a bunch of them and the rings say like rise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Martian Manhunter is one of them, but there's tons that get resurrected.
And then they zoom back to Oa, and you see the Green Lanterns are met suddenly by all the other resurrected lanterns from time, now reborn as Black Lanterns.
Yeah.
Hawkgirl and Hawkman are killed by Black Lanterns. Elongated Man and Sue Dibney and they all sort of start joining these, which Elongated Man as a Black Lantern is one of the scariest, I think, of them all.
Pretty terrifying, yeah.
Just like being able to like stretch like that and like, or as a zombie, like is real scary. And then you get so many heroes in this thing. Like the Atom is tricked into visiting Black Lantern Hawkman, and Deadman is first realizes sort of the dead superheroes are not their true selves. Sort of when his physical body revives as a Black Lantern while he's still free.
Yeah.
And then one of the coolest parts is Aquaman as the Black Lantern.
Yep.
Zombie Aquaman and his like Black Lantern family attack Mira.
Yep.
Which is cool because like she doesn't like at first she doesn't want to believe it, and then
now there's a big thing in all of these scenes, which is that you start to understand that the Black Lanterns can see the emotional spectrum.
Yes, that's right.
And they are basically feeding on those emotions. That's what's charging. That's part of what's charging up the Black Lantern battery is they kill someone when they're feeling an emotion and basically like consume their heart, and it charges the battery.
Yeah, I'm not going to go through all of these pieces because there's so much, right?
Just like synopsis,
but basically, this becomes a story about sort of light and dark, and you get it sort of you get introduced. I think you get first introduced to the Indigo.
Yeah, the Indigo tribe shows up. You meet Indigo 1.
Yeah, which is really like I think was this the first time it had been introduced?
They showed up in the war.
Sinestro or
not not Sinestro Core War, but after that.
Oh, okay.
This isn't the first time, I don't think.
But to a lot of these characters, I think it might be the first time. But
yeah, certainly like in like for some of the characters in there.
For sure, yeah. And they don't speak English, and so there's some confusion and stuff, but they sort of explained that this goes back to the beginning of time, and that like that's where the Black Lantern comes from, and that before it was all light, and then the blackness came, and
well, it's actually the opposite.
Oh, sorry.
Initially, it was
black, and then
black.
The lightness came, and then it was light for like 750 years, and then
exactly
the blackness started to sort of create balance. This ends up being, this is when it starts turning into like a Green Lantern story, I think. But I mean, it's really a battle for all of the lanterns who have been like at war for however long before this finally have to work together.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like all of existence versus the Black Lantern. So as we go through a little bit, obviously we're meeting lots of heroes. We're seeing sort of different corners of the DC universe.
That's right.
We're seeing people come up against resurrected foes and friends in the form of these Black Lanterns, sort of zombies. But eventually we get to a point where they kind of have to unite a little bit. So Indigo 1 does take Hal away for a little bit. And they decide that they need to like merge all of the lights of the spectrum
so
together.
They leave sort of the Flash and the other heroes together to become sort of this new version of the Justice League as they go away. And because I mean, right now, like everybody's split up, and you're dealing with sort of the Lanterns are all dealing with their own thing, while the Flash and Hawkman and Hawkgirl are dealing with their own thing together. And
well, yeah, Hawkman and Hawkgirl have been summarily killed, but yeah, so there's heroes on Earth that are basically just like fighting to survive, and then they're starting to discover that some light will like sever the connection between the Black Lantern ring and the corpse. And off in space, the Lanterns are discovering that too, that if they unite all of the colors, it makes the white light, and it can destroy Black Lantern.
And you're getting a lot of little stories kind of in throughout this.
Yeah.
As you're getting the story of sort of the new Firestorm.
Yeah.
And their sort of like relationship as this is all kind of happening.
Yeah.
And them kind of dealing with the fact that like, sort of what's their relationship? What is their like, how do they balance their personal life throughout this? Obviously, Professor Stein has lost Ronnie, so he's dealing with the fact that he doesn't have another half to his sort of Firestorm, his version of Firestorm.
Yeah.
So you're getting these sort of little stories throughout it, which are really interesting, but they sort of work as part of this thing, but also as completely separate pieces.
Well, they're all kind of callbacks to different eras of comics where like these were important moments for specific characters.
Yeah.
You know, like Ronnie died in 2005 or something like that. You know, they talk a lot about Barry's death in this book, which was 1985. They talk a lot about Hal's death when he was paralyzed,
which is really
when
nice,
he had gone evil, which was in the 90s.
Coming into this, it was nice because these are the versions of these characters that I know, that like that I'm more familiar with. So it was nice to take a break and sort of bring back all of these original characters, which is really cool. Like, it definitely made me feel more comfortable reading a book like this.
Exactly. So we get further in. Why don't you talk a little bit about like, we know that these Black Lantern rings are out there, but there is a point where we sort of learn what the design is, what the plan is, and who the villain is of the story.
Yeah. It's what the hell's his name? I have to remember everything because it's a long book.
It is. It's a big book.
And it just like jumps between all of these different parts of the future and the past. Deadman is the villain, right?
No,
it's
Necron.
Necro. Sorry, yes, Necro is the villain.
Necron.
Yeah. Okay. Which is this a new character? Is this
no? He's like an old Green Lantern villain who's basically the gatekeeper of sort of like the death realm. He sort of exists in like a limbo sort of pocket dimension. I think October last year we talked a bit about Necron in our
I think we did,
in our
yeah.
Death and Afterlife episode.
Mhm.
But yeah, so Necron is a Green Lantern character, but this is a very Jeff Johns move, is to take sort of like a sort of forgotten or kind of one-off character and then reinvent them, give them something big to do.
That's right.
So
but so basically, like, they all start having memories like that. If they have memories and feed on emotions, these sort of like the dead allies. Necron. What am I trying to say here? It's a complicated fucking story.
yeah, so I mean the Coles Notes version of the plan is that Necron, this sort of gatekeeper, he wants to break into like the actual world, and he wants to bring everything back to darkness and death.
Yes. Okay.
And the Black Lantern rings and Black Hand as sort of his ally, or his way of doing it. They're trying to charge up this Black Lantern battery that will allow him to enter the world, the universe.
Was that what? Okay, because I didn't really get. I just remember like it got getting to full power, and I was like, oh, and then there's Necron. I didn't realize that that's what they were building to.
Yeah,
I didn't realize he couldn't come.
yeah. But what Necron reveals when he does eventually make it in is that, you know, he says things like, you know, you thought you were like lucky with your resurrections or, you know, whatever, but like I let you out. So characters like Superman, Green Lantern, anyone that had died was also a target for Necron. Because that's sort of the next phase. Not only are
he's searching for the entity of life, right?
Not only are the currently dead,
yeah,
reanimated, but Necron then is also able to send Black Lantern rings to anyone that had been dead.
Yes,
and turn them into Black Lanterns and take control of them. So, like, you know, and then, you know, we talk about that a lot with superheroes, like dying and coming back. Like, who hasn't? So it's such like a deep pool that he can draw from, right?
That's the thing. And
yes, he's looking for the life entity,
which you find out that as many Earthlings, I'm sure, are thinking that, or the universe surrounds them, which you find out is true.
Yeah, in this book,
that this Earth is where all of life began, and like this was the first place, and everything sprung forth from the Earth, and and so that's where they've been trying to keep it secret, but the entity of life is on Earth. Yeah,
this is partly like a bit of a retcon for why the Guardians, you know, they always insist that Oa is where, you know, like it's the center of the universe, and that they as the Guardians are like the earliest life forms, and it's partly like a reason why like Earth was kind of shoved off to the side before Hal got his ring and stuff like that. So they were trying to hide this entity.
So at this point you get all of the lanterns finally come together, which is really fun, sort of like putting the band together sort of situation, which has been really fun. I love the way when they try to get the Orange Lantern in. And it's just like the Blue Lantern's like, I'll make you not hungry so that you can deal with it.
So now, had you encountered all of those characters before?
No.
Each of the leaders of their corps?
No, not at all.
So Red Lantern, that's Atrocitus. That's Rage. Orange Lantern, that's Larfleeze. That's Greed. Yellow, that's obviously Sinestro. That's Fear. Hal Jordan. Green, Will. Saint Walker is the Blue Lantern. That's Hope.
Yeah.
Indigo 1.
Indigo. Yeah.
Compassion. And then Star Sapphire, Carol Ferris, is the Violet Lantern. And that's Love.
So it's fun to see them sort of come together.
There's a great page of all of them charging their rings and saying their different oaths. And
yes.
Like that.
That was really cool.
It's a really, really cool spread. Yeah,
there's some really cool like 2-page spreads in this book.
Yeah,
some that I've never really seen them do that much on a lot of other comics.
Sure, yeah.
So like being able to actually flip the book over and like pull it like
right, like changing the orientation of.
It's not something I've seen very often in comics. So it was cool to see that, and they do a lot of really interesting things in this book like that.
Yeah.
At a certain point, the Orange Lantern gets killed, right?
No.
Because I know that Lex Luthor comes in.
So he doesn't get killed, but they realize they need more lanterns.
That's right. Okay,
so Ganthet activates this protocol that's in every ring, because every ring is based on the Owen science.
Yeah.
And they select deputies for each corps.
Okay, that's right.
Ganthet gives himself a green ring, but then do you remember who the deputies are for each corps?
No, I don't.
So
I'll be honest, there's a lot of them.
Mira becomes a member of the Red Lantern Corps.
That's right.
Lex Luthor.
That's my favorite.
Becomes an Orange Lantern because of his greed. Scarecrow gets a Yellow Lantern ring.
Fear, obviously, yeah.
The Flash becomes a Blue Lantern.
Mm-hmm.
The Atom, Ray Palmer, becomes a member of the Indigo Tribe. And Wonder Woman gets a Star Sapphire ring, and that is actually what breaks her out of being a Black Lantern. She was one of the ones who had died and come back.
That's right.
And turned into a Black Lantern, and that freed her from
That's a scary moment when everybody becomes bad and Superman becomes a Black Lantern. And
oh, yeah. It's like, oh shit.
It's the last person you want.
So then you have all of the Corps, you have these new deputies.
And they're all sort of fighting to try to get to the entity of life first. Yeah. It's a lot of fighting. It's a lot of fighting.
Which is, it's something that I like about this book is that it's so action heavy.
You'll basically have like ton of 10 story, pages of action, and then you'll have like a wall of text from another page, and then 10 more pages of action.
Yeah, just to catch you up on story stuff, and then it's like back to the fight.
It's very funny. Like it's more dialogue boxes than I've seen in any other book at some points. Some of it I was just like, yeah, okay. Well,
it's like what is this? What is this? A normal book?
Yeah, what is this? A book? I don't like comics because of the reading. And then at some point, that's when Necron has to face the White Lantern.
Yeah,
which is Sinestro.
So they find the life entity.
Yes,
Necron. Which is what he's after.
Yeah.
But yes, Sinestro decides that this is his moment to be the hero that he sees himself as, and he demands the white entity make him like his lantern.
Yeah.
And he becomes a White Lantern.
Which is cool. I mean, I didn't even know that White Lantern was a thing.
Yeah.
So, we'll have to talk about the Brightest Day at some point.
Yeah. That's another day. Yeah.
But then you sort of that's when you get like the newly restored Justice League.
Well, yeah, so Sinestro kind of fails.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of being selfish.
Well, because it's Sinestro.
He's not giving himself over to the power of life. He's just trying to wield it. There's how does Hal put it in the book? I'm going to misquote it, but he basically says, like, Necron, you said you're the one that, like, opened the door for us to come back to life after our deaths, but we're the ones who walked through it. You know, like, if anyone is going to be a White Lantern Corps, it's us. And it's basically the Justice League as White Lanterns, which is super dope looking. Yeah. It's very, very cool.
It is really, really cool.
They fight back Necron and
defeat.
Yeah. And a White Lantern ring goes into the black battery. Mm-hmm. And then you realize what's been powering the battery, which is the anti-monitor.
That's right.
But basically, these White Lantern rings sort of, like, in giving life, undo the death, sort of destroy the battery, undo Necron, undo all of these things. And then, with that defeated, in the aftermath, we're left with 12, I believe, resurrected, like, actually resurrected characters. Which includes some of the ones that you already mentioned that were featured in the story.
That's right.
Martian Manhunter comes back. Aquaman comes back. There are some villains in there. Eobard Thawne comes back. Digger Harkness, Captain Boomerang comes back.
Bart Allen, do you get?
No.
He is in the book, but
yeah.
He doesn't come back.
Who else comes back? Maxwell Lord comes back.
That's right.
There's a bunch, which is it's pretty neat, and that kicks off its own thing called Brightest Day, which is like a whole nother event that we don't have like time to get into.
Oh my god, no. But
this is a very dense book. There's a lot of mythology in it.
Really, really dense. And
what are things that aren't necessarily the beats of the story that you liked about this book?
I liked a lot of the sort of interstitial stuff in there. I like the stories that I could really grab onto, like the Firestorm sort of a version of Firestorm that I don't really know well either. Who is the name? What are the names of the two?
It's Jason Rush.
Jason Rush, and then the girl is...
Well, Ronnie and Jason were Firestorm for a long time.
Yeah.
But then it's Jason and Jen.
That's...
Very, very briefly, poor Jen gets turned into salt because a Black Lantern version of Ronnie merges with Jason.
Yes.
Like a live Jason.
That part is so cool.
They become something called Deathstorm.
Yeah.
And Deathstorm uses the transmutation power to turn Jenny into salt and kills her, which is too bad.
Yeah. I like the Atom's a character I don't really know that much about, which is really fun.
Sure.
Like, I know the CW sort of version of him, but I liked the sort of traveling through the phone line.
Yeah, that's an old Atom trick from like the Silver Age and stuff like that.
That stuff I wasn't expecting that, and I was kind of like, how does he do that? Like, I didn't understand.
So I mean, as a book that shows a ton of characters, like even though you're kind of dropped into the middle of things, did you enjoy like getting to see like all these different kind of corners of the universe, like characters that you're like, oh yeah, shit, like that guy? Or
yeah. I think that this book is both for new readers and old readers at the same time as being completely not for them.
Sure,
it's hard, right? Because it introduces a lot of characters to you, but assumes that you know who they already are.
Yes, this is definitely like you're not starting at the beginning.
But they're also not really treating them in a way that it's just like, you remember this person, they're going to do the thing that you remember. So it's not really this sort of the nostalgia piece either.
No.
So it's that part's really...
I mean, if anything, it's the opposite of that because it's a real kill your darlings kind of thing.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, some of them come back. Hawkman and Hawk Woman come back and stuff like that. But yeah, there is a real like, oh, like, hey, remember this guy? Heart is ripped out.
Yeah. They really like I think like frame by frame they introduce and then destroy and murder, like brutally murder a lot of characters in this. I like this sort of scary, like flesh, like zombie-ishness to it all. Mm-hmm. I think that part's really cool. The book makes you feel overwhelmed, which I think is an intentional thing. Yeah, the story is supposed to be overwhelming.
Like it's too insurmountable. Like, how could they possibly win?
Even as you're reading it, you're just like, oh my God, this is so much is happening all at once.
There are huge moments in this book that we haven't even mentioned because there's just too much in there. A big one is that, like we said, the Black Lanterns see emotion. They can see, if you're feeling rage, they see you as red. Yeah. And then they feed on that and that helps charge the battery. But in order to like before Necron takes over like the living who had been dead, the big moment is that they resurrect Bruce Wayne as Batman. Yes. And because he's an emotional tether to most of the hero community, that's like the access point. That's like a huge turning point where you're like, fuck, Necron might win this.
Yeah.
And that's a massive moment in this book that we didn't even talk about. There's too much. There's so much in there.
So much in this book. Yeah. I would say my recommendation is don't do what I did. Don't read it in one day. Take your time with this book. Or read it throughout a day. I would
read it a couple of times.
Yeah, because I'll need to read this a few times just to really understand. I was trying to get through this book, which I would recommend sort of take a day.
Yeah,
because it's a big book. Like it's super dense. There's a lot in it, and a lot of stuff happens. So much that like you have to really read each frame by frame.
Yeah.
to really understand what's going on and what's happened, and like take a second to think about each sort of storyline, because it has no qualms with just jumping to another whole different part of the story at the next frame.
And again, this is a big event book. You're being dropped into something that was in progress, right? Like the things led up to this book. And you're being dropped in. And also, this book comes off Jeff Johns doing, or comes off Grant Morrison doing something like Final Crisis. It comes off Jeff Johns doing something like Flash Rebirth. These things that are basically playing on the idea that like we know these characters because they've been around for decades.
Yeah. And
Blackest Night is like, remember every time a character died? We do. and then you see it.
Yeah.
This trades on like 70 years of comic book history. There's a lot in that book. And so I don't necessarily think you need to know it all to enjoy the book, but it could certainly feel overwhelming because it's pulling from like a massive amount of continuity.
At the end of the day, I think the true purpose of this book is to talk about life and death, and light and dark. I think it's the black and white of sort of life. Mm-hmm. I think that's the idea of the entirety of it. It explores all the different ways that people deal with life and death. Whether the idea of coming back to life, which you see from the undead, you see from the Flash coming back from the Speed Force. Yeah. What is that like, coming back from something, being displaced from your life and then coming back into it?
And then also there's also a thing about like how come some people get to, and Necron kind of offers like an in continuity explanation, like I allowed you out so that I could use you later.
Yeah.
But at the end, 12 characters get resurrected by the White Lantern, but they make immediate note that among them is not Ralph or Sue Dibney.
Yep.
Elongated Man and Sue Dibney stay dead. So there's a question about like why? How come Hank Hall comes back, but
they reference,
but they don't. There is a lot of, in a way, a book that feels like it should be answering how life and death work. It kind of ends with these superheroes who have done both rediscover that there's like a mystery to like life. Like there's still no real reason they can get behind of like, why are some of us alive? Why do some of us die? How come some come back? How come some don't? Like, what's our purpose? In a way, it almost like resets them.
Yeah,
to zero.
Definitely. Yeah. It's a complicated book, and why don't we go into the questions? Because I think that I'm sure that's going to address a lot of this.
Here, out of 5 capes, what do you give it?
I'd say this is a 3.5.
Ooh, because it's so dense.
It's so much, and maybe after. I mean, you. What did you say to me the other day that you read this once a month?
Yeah, I've read this book once a month for the last 2.5 years.
Do you just not put this away?
It's on the bookshelf. And it's on my nightstand. But
I feel like you like to and have to at the same time read this book this many times. I think
at this point I've gotten most things out of it, but
it's a book. It's a story that needs to be digested.
Yes,
and I'm still sort of digesting it and still trying to. I also have a memory of a goldfish, so
there's so many names.
There's so much and characters that I'm like, as we're 81 episodes in, I'm still just learning who a lot of these characters are, which was nice because I think had I read this a year ago, I wouldn't have known half of what was going on or who these people were. So it's been nice to, like, someone who's been sort of tangentially like understanding comics for a long time, now who have more dove into it, understanding sort of. I think this was a point when I could actually even try to read this book.
Sure, yeah.
It's a good story. There's just a lot of fucking story in this, and it's hard. it's hard to reconcile of how I even feel about it because I don't even 100% know what happened in it,
Right.
because there's so much that happened in it. Like I'm just flashing to like pieces of this story rather than the entirety of it.
That's
like
fair.
you telling me what it actually was, I was just like, I didn't even realize that because I was reading all the stories in between it,
Yeah.
and not really digesting what had happened because the stories that are in it are so strong and pull you into, remember when this happened?
Right.
Remember when that happened? And a lot of it is stuff that I've just heard you talk about. So for me to see it as a flash at the first time, I was like, this is women in refrigerators. Like I didn't even like,
Oh yeah.
like it really pulls your attention and it's sort of like the undead where it's pulling you into the darkness.
Sure, yeah.
Even just the way the book is laid out, as the pages, if you look at it from the side, the pages get darker as you're sort of heading into the points going up. The actually pages themselves are getting darker and darker and darker until it's just blackness. But yeah, it's a good book. I haven't read it in enough time to call it a great book yet.
Fair enough.
I think. Well, let's head over to the questions.
Let's do it.
Let's head over on our Twitter.
Oh fuck! I keep getting tripped up now.
Twitter.
Fuck! It's ruining my drop.
How I miss the sound of those little feet. The Twitter of a baby's footsteps. First question comes from our old friend Dave Rossi.
Hey, Dave, welcome back. Oh my God, Dash will turn off the podcast.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, Dashel.
I mean, in fairness, we've probably sworn less in this podcast so far than we usually do.
Fucking right we have.
My freaking ears.
Is that a Simpsons?
Yeah.
Oh, my freaking ears. All right. So Dave asks, who wasn't resurrected as a Black Lantern that you wish had been?
Well, I'll give an answer to the first half of that question, and then we could talk about the wish that we had.
Yeah.
But there is a very notable character that does not get resurrected in this book, and that is Dawn Hall, the original Dove.
Well, that's right, because you get the newer Dove, right?
Yeah, Dawn Granger, and she has like a white light sort of in her. She's able to disperse the Black Lanterns, but the original Dove, who died at the end of the first Crisis on Infinite Earths, he died in Crisis number 12. Black Lantern rings keep coming at his grave, Dawn Hall of Earth, but they keep like pinging off. And eventually they say like Dawn Hall of Earth at peace. He's the only one that cannot be resurrected. Now, that's not to say he's the only one that didn't get resurrected. Not every dead being in the universe got resurrected during the Blackest Night. But Dawn Hall could not be. Like his soul and his body and everything about him were so at peace that there was no version, that nothing for the Black Lantern to grab onto, nothing to pull back into the world of the living, which is interesting because Dove is an avatar of peace. Yeah, so it's neat to see how they embodied that for both of them. Dawn Granger has this sort of embracing the power of life, and then Dawn Hall doesn't get brought back as this monstrous horror. Hank does. The Avatar of War, Hawk, he gets killed and brought back, but yeah, Dawn doesn't, which is interesting. Now, a character that wasn't resurrected that I wish was, that's a tough one because this, as we've been talking about, this event and all of the tie-ins go so broad that trying to think of a character that I give any sort of shit about that didn't get resurrected is sort of. It's hard, actually, because I think you're going so deep into the mythology to find someone that wasn't resurrected. I'm trying to remind myself right now if did Bwana Beast get resurrected in like an Animal Man title? Feel like he might have. Actually, maybe he didn't. I don't remember, but if. No, he might have too. Fuck. I actually don't think there's a character that I care enough about that wasn't it wasn't resurrected. I think like the pool is too deep and too wide, and they covered so much ground with this event. I don't think I can even like weird fucking knockoff characters like Terry Long, like the random guy that Donna Troy was married to for a bit, like he came back. Everyone came back in some form. I don't know that there's one that I was like, oh, I wish they did that and then didn't show up.
No, I can't think of anybody either.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go to the next question then.
Yeah.
Next question comes from Axel. Axel, who asks, if you could change the hero team that got different lantern rings to help fight the Black Lantern zombies, who would you pick?
Right, so that team of deputies. So instead of like Mira and Luthor and Scarecrow and the Atom and the Flash and Wonder Woman and Ganthet, who would you pick? Now, for the purpose of this, we have to imagine that we're sort of rewriting all of Blackest Night. Because different characters die at different times.
So many of them are already dead. We
can't just go off who was alive at that moment. Let's just open it up to the DC universe. If you're rewriting Blackest Night, who would you have wanted to build towards as like your team of deputies?
Yeah.
I mean, we could tag team this if you want.
Sure, yeah.
I think I would want to see Hawkman as a Red Lantern. Because Hawkman is a sort of like brute warrior. He's hawkishly conservative, a little on the nose, but you know what I mean. Like he does have a rage and a strength and sort of malicious power to him, even though he's a hero. I think it'd be cool to see him tap into that as a Red Lantern.
Totally. I'd like to see Constantine as the Yellow Lantern.
Oh, interesting.
So
I think he could probably also work as an Orange Lantern, frankly.
For sure. Yeah. I just think that like he has all of this experience with like actually going to hell and back, having sort of like being a suicide survivor and a demon hunter.
Right.
The darkness that he has witnessed, even that he could pull from, has got to be unlike anything that you've ever seen.
Sure.
So yeah, I think that's
okay. Interesting. Luthor is just such a perfect greed one. It's hard to outdo that one, but I'll try and think. I mean, Superman for Hope is maybe too obvious, but I think that would be a neat one too. See Superman as a Blue Lantern. Compassion, maybe like Nightwing, Dick Grayson.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's his strength. That it's something that Bruce doesn't have. That's like the thing that makes him Nightwing and not Batman. Or even when he was Batman, it's the thing that made him like Dick Batman, not Bruce Batman.
I'd like to see Green Arrow as Green Lantern.
Green Arrow, Green Arrow as Green Lantern.
Yeah, I think, I mean, this is a character that's been through so much and I think who has a very strong willpower.
Of course.
I think that would be really interesting.
Yeah. A character like Starfire Starfire would be interesting as a Star Sapphire, I think.
Yeah.
That's a character very in touch with her feelings and compassionate and things like that. And I know compassion's indigo. I know. But you know, like Wonder Woman. I think there are lots of similarities in terms of like, but also still both warriors and things, which ties into the Zamaron history of the Star Sapphires. Like, I think Starfire would be a logical alternate for.
Totally. Yeah. Without a doubt.
Greed. Matter Eater lad.
Oh, there we go.
A glutton.
Yeah, that fucking works.
The Luthor one's just too perfect. I have a really hard time thinking of someone other than Luthor because there's such a great moment in Blackest Night where Luthor, with the orange ring on, sees the Scarecrow. Like he's like, I finally can feel fear again. This is my moment. And then Luthor says, "No, it's mine." Because
yes, that's right.
And he steals the yellow ring from Scarecrow. It's such a perfect moment, and it's so Luthor.
You know what, you guys, let us know who you would pick for all of them. Hashtag Lantern Light, and send us on Twitter each of your different.
That's a good hashtag.
Lanterns. Every once in a while, I guess. See if you think about it. It's sometimes
I like it.
quality ones come out. So now let's go to the next question. Mad Seb 77.
Hey,
I got 77 Sebs
and this one's mad.
Yeah, that's right. Just feeling out what this drop's going to be.
Perfect drop. No more edits.
Seb asks, are we still feeling the effects of Blackest Night still today in the Green Lantern lore in 2018? And is this a great jumping off point for fans that don't know these characters to fully appreciate the Lantern Corps? Thanks as always. #JuckHughes.
We are in some ways.
Well, I said earlier that this isn't a great spot for new fans, but for the Green Lantern, it kind of is. It gives you a very sort of like quick understanding of who are the Lanterns.
Here are the cores. Here are their powers. Here's the
It doesn't really give you a lot of like background, but it gives you enough that you can follow along.
Yeah.
So as somebody like myself who's only just read a few different Lantern books, never any of those sort of like Red Lanterns, and like I don't know a lot of the spectrum.
Sure.
I'd say this is a good start for sure.
I think it's I've said it before, like I like recommending event books to people because even though they're bewildering and there's a ton of characters and you don't know the continuity, you at least get exposure to a ton of characters and like references to stories. There's the odds of something being like, oh, I'd like to know more about that. Like it's higher with an event book because who knows what you'll take to, right?
It's true, yeah.
In terms of feeling the effects, you do and you don't, because Blackest Night is right near the tail end of the pre-Flashpoint continuity. It's only like a year and a half or so away from Flashpoint changing everything, and then the New 52 starts. Except that the New 52 didn't change everything. For Green Lantern, the mythos just kept going, but for the rest of the universe, it was like some things had reset. So Black Hand still existed the way he does in this book.
Yeah.
And there are references to things that make you think the Blackest Night has happened. But then in other areas, you're like, specific things wouldn't have, like, anything with Martian Manhunter gets really muddy there. So there's a bit of continuity blurring, but generally speaking, and especially now that Rebirth is kind of folding the old continuity and the new one together, it's safe to say that Blackest Night has happened. I think what it did is Blackest Night's also like the last bit of a few chapters of Jeff Johns on Green Lantern, right? Like through Green Lantern Rebirth and then Sinestro Corps War, and you get like Agent Orange and Wrath of the Red Lanterns and like all sorts of these things. And then Blackest Night. And that continues, and I think where you see it manifest is that new writers coming into Green Lantern are more willing to explore the idea of these things like emotional spectrum, stuff that Jeff Johns created to get us to Blackest Night, that there are different emotions and things like that. Good or bad, there's the idea of the emotional reservoir, that there's like a finite amount of each emotion. There's a crossover with the New Gods where they think that the life equation must live within the white light of life. So all of these things are concepts and things that come from Blackest Night that have been expanded upon or explored later. So yeah, there are effects of Blackest Night moving forward. But are there a ton of specific references to the event, to Necron, to things like that? Not really.
No, not really.
But I think you see it in the way that writers maybe approach Green Lantern stories, or what it just did to the mythology in general, like leading up to Blackest Night and then including that book. It really blew things open. There's so many more corners to explore. What does it mean to have these different things powered by different emotions? Like, what are their worlds like? What are, there's a lot in there. And that's, I think, where you see the effect or the impact.
Totally. Next question comes from Cosmic DM.
All right. So cosmic.
Dropping in them DMs.
Nice.
Out of this world. Cosmic DM asks, it's only sort of relevant, or only sort of related. But how do you feel about Hal being the center of so many stories involving the Green Lanterns? I know he's the first Green Lantern, he's the first Earth Green Lantern. But sometimes I wish Jon Stewart would get more events.
I can hear Bokelman screaming.
Bogle, bogle, bogle.
Just for the record, Cosmic DM did put quotes around First Earth Lantern because he's clearly also aware that Alan Scott isn't.
Yes.
But right. How do you, well, as someone who picked this up, who, you know, we spend a lot of time talking about Hal Jordan. I know you don't necessarily read a ton of comics, but are you tired of Hal? Do you wish a different Green Lantern was sort of like the center of this story?
I think I don't think I've had enough. I think I like his perspective. I mean, the Earth One too. I mean,
yeah,
that was great.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we did like that one. That's true.
Yeah, but I think I'm open to it. I guess I haven't been satiated yet.
Right. I don't have a particular issue seeing Hal crop up. I like Hal. I like that character. But that being said, if you just like look at like big events, which Green Lantern are we using? Like, yeah, of course we could use more Jon Stewart. Of course we could use more Kyle Rayner. You know, now we also have Simon Baz and Jessica Cruz.
Is Kyle Rayner the artist one?
Yes.
It's hilarious. I read that in this book and I was like, the artist?
Yeah.
I'm like, because he's creative.
He's the one that became the only Green Lantern after Hal had destroyed the core and became Parallax.
Yeah.
So for a lot of people, Kyle is their Green Lantern because that was sort of the era.
I get it because he used to be creative to be able to come up with but I was like, no, an artist. I was like, finally something you can do with an art degree.
You know, we don't really need a Guy Gardner-centered arc, I think, or event. I think we're all right.
Yeah.
Unless it's just some sort of, like, underground dogfighting ring or something.
He's such a sleazebag.
But, you know, Jessica Cruz got a little bit of time to shine
can I just
the Dark Side War and that. So, like, maybe Simon needs something.
The Guy Gardner thing just reminds me of what a fucking, like, jock they make Ronnie in this book.
Well, but that's the thing. In the original Firestorm book, it's almost ludicrous. He's a jock who gets bullied by nerds,
which is really funny.
Yeah.
As somebody who only really knows Ronnie from the CW, it's so weird to see
because that Ronnie is so smart.
He's and he's just like fucking nerd in this book, and I'm just like, wait, Ronnie, what?
Well, yeah, the original Firestorm those books are almost like ludicrous to read.
It's just like, why don't you do some equations?
He's just like a jock who like just wants to play football. He's just a nice guy. And then people are like, oh, you can't even like, you don't even know what a isosceles triangle looks like. And he's like, I just want to play my football. He's like,
you're analog.
He's just getting bullied by nerds all the time.
Do you remember that? Do you remember those commercials from the 90s?
12. What time is it at your house, Billy? 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock.
You're analog.
What was the question? Oh, right. I don't have a problem with Hal being at the center, but I think objectively, if you look at it, yeah, like other people need a bit more time to shine.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the next question from Raspberries Reviews.
The kind you find
on a secondhand podcast. Raspberries Reviews asks, what were some of your favorite moments, and can you fill me in what led up to the event? Well, I think Sinestro Core War was...
Sinestro Core War definitely leads up to this.
Core War.
So in that one, and part of that is referenced in Blackest Night. You're talking about this Memorial Day, and then you see them in Coast City, and they're shining their light. The sort of the climax of Sinestro Core War is that Sinestro's new fear-based army invades Earth and assaults Coast City.
Yeah.
And there's a really like stirring, amazing thing where the people of Coast City don't flee. They put green lights in their window. It's the city without fear because it had been destroyed in the 90s and stuff like that. So it's like, it's a really kind of beautiful moment in that book. But in that book, that's where the Guardians authorize the Green Lanterns to use lethal force. It kicks off the War of Light. There's a whole bunch of things that happen because of the Sinestro Core War. So that's sort of the lead up. That's definitely like an important first chapter to it. Favorite moments. Well, I've talked about a couple already. I love Orange Lantern Luthor taking Scarecrow's yellow ring. I love the idea of it bringing out the worst of Luthor's avarice. That just the idea that the Scarecrow is saying, "This is my moment," which is so abstract, and Luthor's like, "No, it's mine." I love that. I think it's such a great little bit. The art is incredible. Like Richard said, that sort of Black Lantern elongated man is a really sort of terrifying vision. That's really neat. I really enjoy, some of those big spreads. I love that shot of all of them charging their rings and saying their oaths. It's a really, really beautiful 2-page spread of all of the leaders of the Corps doing that. And then I've mentioned it, maybe not on this podcast, maybe when I guessed it on the Lantern Cast, but there's a real oh shit moment for me because I read this book before I read Sinestro Corps War or any of the other sort of lead up stuff. But when the White Lantern ring goes into the Black Battery and resurrects the Anti-Monitor, the last time we saw, or to my knowledge at the time when I was reading it, the last time we saw the Anti-Monitor, he destroyed infinite Earths.
Yeah.
So when that resurrected Anti-Monitor started crawling out of the battery, that was a legitimate, I was like, oh fuck, they fucked up. Like that was the moment where I was like, holy shit, what are they going to do now?
It's true.
It's one thing to beat death, but how do you beat that? It was that was a real moment for me, but that was because I didn't necessarily have the context at the time, but I remember that it made a real impact on me. Richard, you just have, I know there's so much in there. You just read the book, but are there moments that stand out? Could be for art, could be for story.
I liked the Atoms battle.
Oh yeah.
Where there's all the different versions of the Atom are all fighting against each other.
Oh right, because you've got the Golden Age Atom. You get Damage.
Yep.
You got Ray in there. Yeah. There's
and Ray. What is it? One of them goes inside the other one. It splits them in half.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, there's some interesting use of powers.
Mm-hmm.
We do see the Atom use some powers, going through the phone lines, doing that sort of thing. Barry uses the Speed Force to travel 2 seconds into the future to sever the connection with the Black Lantern.
That was really cool. That was super cool.
Chasing him. There's some interesting uses of powers in there.
I think Scarecrow becoming the Lantern was a really cool, oh shit moment. When it happened, I was like, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously. Right?
Yeah, that made a ton of sense. I think that was one of my favorite moments when Jen dies, and
that's a tough one.
It's a tough one, but it's good.
It is. It's very well done.
I really enjoyed it. I like a lot of the use of the Green Lanterns to sort of fight off, and understanding that the white light is the only thing that could really do it, but the Green Lantern light helped a little bit, and seeing that wash ocean against the zombies was a really cool visual.
I like the idea that the Black Lantern rings operate like a swarm of flies. They buzz and they move in this big horde.
Yeah.
But that's such a horror trope, right? The unnatural movement of insects or animals or things like that. So having that in there, I think, is a really neat element. Just all of these black rings just working their way through the universe and resurrecting all of these or reanimating all of these corpses and things like that.
Yeah, I think those were definitely some of my favorite moments. But I mean, there's so much. We could talk all day about it.
I love seeing that sort of White Lantern core.
Yeah.
I think that's a really beautiful moment, really striking. There's so much in there. I think all of the stuff that happens in Amnesty Bay with Mira and the sort of Aqua family is really heart-wrenching, because it starts with Garth requesting that Arthur's remains are moved to Atlantis so he can be honored as a king. And Mira says no, he was a child of the land. He deserves to be here with his family.
Yeah.
And they're having this thing about like what to do with basically like the spirit of Arthur. And then this Black Lantern Aquaman comes out of nowhere. Garth gets killed. Like it's really like horrifying.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the next question from Let's Talk Ragman.
Hey.
Who asks, let's talk about the Tales of the Green Lantern Corps, one issue of which features Alan Moore's Tigers, the inspiration behind Blackest Night.
There's a few things that inspire Blackest Night. So Tales of the Green Lantern Corps was a 3-issue and then 3 annual series.
Mm-hmm.
So there's only 6 issues basically of this from several decades ago. And the 3 issues basically follow Krona, who's the rogue guardian. And it's the first appearance of Necron is in issue number 2. So he basically, because Krona had been sort of banished as energy, but he's an immortal, it caused this paradox that opened a rift into like the death realm, like the limbo dimension where Necron is. But Necron couldn't work his way through the rift, like physically. So he had a resurrected Krona and some other sort of like, death spirits try to do his dirty work to open the rift so he could come through. In some ways, this is a very like proto Blackest Night kind of story, because a lot of those elements are in Blackest Night. Necron needs to pass into our world. He has agents on the other side, of agents of death, sort of getting things ready and prepping to open this wide enough or charge the battery enough so that he can come through. As for the Tigers specifically, I'll admit that's not something I know a ton about.
Yeah.
But in general, like that story with Krona and Necron, it feels very much like a really early first draft of Blackest Night. You can see how it's an inspiration.
Totally.
And those sort of like death creatures and things like that, you'd be like, oh, especially someone like Jeff Johns, who's famous for going back and being like, that was kind of a good idea. They just didn't know what they had.
Yeah.
And then turn it into something. That's what he's best at.
Oh,
and I think you can see it there, that he probably was like, oh, wait a minute. Like, this is a good idea. I could do this really well.
It's funny. Do you think he could like go back and do that to his movies?
It's true. I mean, there's something about the medium, right? Like Jeff Johns is an amazing comic book writer, if not a little mainstream.
Yeah.
But still, like, I mean, what you want him to deliver, he can do it. It's fucking amazing.
He's not creating these sort of esoteric things like Morrison, but
no, he's very sort of middle of the road, but it's always like top notch.
But it's a great
his Green Lantern run, including this, his Aquaman run is amazing. His Justice League run, including Darkseid War, like his Action Comics run, like all of these different things, they're so strong.
He's really great at creating interpretations of concepts. I think that's
where he
has a lot of strength.
Yeah, totally.
With that, the Dr. DC podcast will be back after this quick break. This episode of the Dr. DC podcast is brought to you thanks to our sponsor, Great Lakes Grooming Co. Honestly, I've been using this product actually for a really, really long time. I, as well, have a very large beard, same as the doctor. I think mine actually might be a little bit bigger. So my favorite products are, first of all, that beard oil. I've been using it for a really long time. I've actually not had to use cologne because of it. I actually stopped using cologne because it was just, that smell of that beard oil is amazing. I also have a very rough and dry beard usually, so this has been making it super smooth. And then I have to say that my second favorite product is that Noble Selves hair styling cream. It's a medium light holding, which is really nice. It's hard to find a good holding cream for your hair. I've used waxes and gels and sprays and all that stuff, and it never really, really works. This stuff makes my hair look amazing. It holds for multiple days on end for people like me who don't like to shower. It's honestly a great, great, great product. So I've been super happy with it so far. I think you guys will be too. Great Lakes Grooming is meant to be easy and ready to use, rain or shine. All their products are purposely designed and environmentally responsible, handmade in Canada, ready for adventure wherever one may find themselves. And lucky for you listeners, you get 10% off on the Great Lakes Grooming's regular price products by going to www.greatlakesgrooming.com and using the promo code DRDC podcast. That's right. www.greatlakesgrooming.com, promo code Dr. DC podcast. Now, back to the show. And we're back.
Hey!
Oh. Hey. Oh.
H to the...
Shizzle to my nizzle while I bizzle down on VA. Yeah, is that it? Yeah. That's the whitest thing I've ever said.
I didn't want to say it.
Well, let's head over to Facebook.
Going to the face, said the book. Going to the Facebook.
Going
to the face bizzle, am I right?
Our first and only question on Facebook comes from our friend Roland Sebas.
Seba. We've been over this.
Roland Sebas. Say it thirsty, my friend.
He's the most interesting fan in the world.
That's good. So let me, if I can read this correctly.
Sure.
Was the ending satisfying for you personally? And is Sinestro a better character in DC since? Thanks. In evil Alfred voice.
Right.
I hope I did that correctly.
That was incredible.
The secret is all voices of Alfred are evil Alfred.
Because some of us just carry darkness in our hearts.
Some of us just want to watch the world burn.
And some of us make a large neoprene and Kevlar suit and we need someone to fill it.
Yeah.
You know, swings and roundabouts.
Some of us need to make sure the world burns. By very specifically making things happen. I hope this is people's first time listening to this podcast.
They'll be like, what the fuck?
What the fuck is going on? What did Michael Caine ever do to you?
Right. Did you think the ending was satisfying? Why don't you answer that one?
Satisfying enough, I think. There was no, like, big aha moment or anything. Like, it's more of just like, oh, cool. I think that's the ending for me. Right. I don't think it was overly satisfying. I think it did the job.
Sure.
It felt like it was leading towards another story, which it was. Which
is Brightest Day.
Yeah.
Which is not as good, but interesting in its own way.
You don't get this sort of tying together of a whole story. You find it's just like a conclusion.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel, because things go so out of hand, it does feel maybe a little too tidy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it is pretty satisfying. I think it's a pretty, like, all things considered,
considering how much they were doing,
what happens in that story, that's a pretty solid ending. As for Sinestro, if you mean a better character, like a better person, because he does kind of see himself as the hero, he wants to be the White Lantern. Sinestro's always kind of been that way, but basically Sinestro Corps War, well, Green Lantern Rebirth onward, Jeff Johns really insisted on this idea that Sinestro is he's just on the wrong path, but wants the same thing.
Yeah.
Or the similar thing. You know, he wants safety, secure, but he wants it through, like, enforcement of order and, you know, like, rule of, like, fear and things like that. And Hal wants it through, like, freedom of choice and stuff like that.
Freedom of choice.
But, you know, like, not long after that and into the New 52, Sinestro became a Green Lantern again for a bit. Like it wasn't like going back in time. He's like, he once again was a Green Lantern. And then was once again partnered with Hal for a bit. And then, you know, then he was a part of the Indigo tribe for a bit, you know, like, felt some remorse for his actions and things like that. Like, Sinestro has lots of growth, you know, like, and there are moments of heroism in him. He joins the Injustice League to fight the crime syndicate during Forever Evil. And, you know, he fights against, what are they called? The Paling or the Pale Order or something like, I can't remember the name, but it was in the Sinestro series. You know, he fights against them. They're objectively worse than he is. So there's elements of that, and he's always going to be a partner-ish or a friend or a connection to
or a confidant.
Yeah, to Hal. They're always going to have that. But I do think he's more interesting since the Johns era. Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, let's go over to Instagram.
Now we're going to Instagram, take some questions and answer them.
So our questions comes from Stump Chunkman.
Step into the Stump Chunkman. Bleh!
It's really our. It's a pièce de résistance. So
I mean, we've had a lot of time to refine that one.
That's true. Stump asks, if you had a Black Lantern ring, which fallen hero / villain would you bring back to fight by your side, and which side would that be?
Well, we know what side you would pick.
The fucking Black Lanterns.
Yeah, you would be Necron.
Yeah.
No, you would be Black Hand. You would be like, yes, Mr. Necron. Yeah, anything you...
Is he also work at a bar on DS9?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Necron, anything you want. Go 12 bucks and gold press platinum for you.
Black press platinum. Blackest platinum. Yeah. Well, who would you bring back? Let's say you're Black Hand. Let's say you're trying to bring on the Blackest Night. Who's maybe someone you go after to kill and then reanimate to have at your side?
Joker.
Oh fuck. Oh no.
I just think a Black Lantern Joker is terrifying, and I would love to. Yeah, I think that's the team I would like to be.
That is very, very interesting. Mm-hmm. I like that. Oh, fuck. Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously, I think I lean more on the hero side than Richard does. I think I'm objectively the protagonist of this podcast.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you wouldn't. Who would I bring back to fight alongside?
Aquaman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if I get to use the Black Lantern ring for good, it's got to be Aquaman or Martian Manhunter. Both of those are like, Martian Manhunter is such a heavy hitter, man. Like,
maybe you could be Aquaman.
Oh my god. Or, if I was Aquaman and I got a Black Lantern ring, like if I was just in that world and I was Aquaman, I would bring back Arian, like that ancient Atlantean hero.
Oh yeah.
Like if I was Atlantean and I was like, who's the greatest hero of our people? I'd bring back Arian.
I'd be Batman and bring back my parents.
just for one more day.
No, they must be dead for you to fulfill your destiny. I'll kill him again, don't make me.
I'm so sorry, Master Bruce.
My bloodlust, it must be satiated.
Or you bring back the Flying Graysons just so they can perform and just, thrill the world one more time.
And then I'll have to kill them again.
So they're going to do the trapeze thing, grab the arms just come off. Like, ah!
Don't make me kill them again.
You killed them too. Fuck. Actually, just speaking of arms coming off, I'd be remiss if I didn't.
Arm fall off, boy.
Well, fuck, yeah. I mean, there's all sorts of shit there. But I was going to say, I know that Bokelman brought up, he has a bit of a point of contention about calling the Black Lanterns zombies.
Yeah.
Which I kind of understand, but my counterpoint is that they're zombies.
Yeah.
Because they don't come back with their souls. They're not reanimated.
They're the undead.
They have memories and things like that, but only because that's something that can be physically accessed through the neurons and shit like that, right? They're just husks.
The neurons.
They have to feed. They know what to go after.
Yeah.
All that kind of shit, right?
They like eating hearts. I think that's they make a comment about eating brains, and then it's like they're after the heart. It's clearly joking with the idea.
Yeah, maybe technically we could split hairs a little bit, but I think if you look at sort of the broad strokes, I actually do think they're really great interpretations of zombies.
Yeah.
So that's my 2 cents about that. Black Lanterns are zombies. Fight me. # Black Lanterns are zombies.
Well, I think that's it for the questions.
Yeah. Holy shit. We did it.
We did. You know what time that means? It is.
Fuck me. Yeah, okay.
It's Dial Doc.
Yep.
Every week we create our own sort of hero based on the Dial H comic books.
Yeah.
Which some of you guys have been sending us photos of your Dial H books that you've been reading lately.
Well, and there's a new series coming.
That's right. So it's been great that this has kind of put us. I think we're the reason why that new series.
Oh,
obviously.
clearly.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the royalty check. Yeah.
But yeah, so the idea is that we Dial H for hero or villain, I guess. What's the Dial V? Is it, what the fuck is it?
Yeah, you could dial villain.
Yeah, so, and then create a hero or a villain. Yeah, so.
I have one.
Go. Oh, good. Thank God. I mean, yes. Go ahead.
So his name is Monsieur Ciseaux.
Monsieur Ciseaux?
And Monsieur Ciseaux is very French.
No. Pourquoi?
He kind of...
Quoi?
He looks like a bit of like a French debutante.
Like a fancy man?
But he has a very, very thin mustache.
Oh my God, of course.
And the thin mustache can close like scissors and cut things.
Oh my God,
it's
that's
like
so fucking...
prehensile, so it can like come out.
Go out. Okay, I was going to say...
It doesn't have to be like right at
in front of his mouth.
Yeah, but it can like go out and cut shit. So that's Monsieur Ciseaux.
That's really fun.
Yeah.
That's really fun.
It's not just because I saw scissors in the cup over there.
I've been thinking a lot of lately, and I'm going to base the character on this, is the 1978 Superman film.
Sure.
Where Lois Lane dies, and so he spins the earth around and then goes back in time.
Right. Captain Regret.
Yeah. So I'm creating a character that, because Superman did that, it created a separate timeline where it created a different version of Superman.
Sure.
But it's one without all the superpowers, except for he has the ability. His name is Clock Bend.
Okay.
And
does he only have the time like rewind ability?
He can only fast forward the time.
Oh, it's like Click. It's like Adam Sandler.
He can only go 12 hours ahead.
Oh, so he can't even decide how far forward he goes.
No, it's just 12 hours.
So if he wants to, he can move 12 hours ahead.
But this is basically, he becomes this right after Lois dies.
Oh, okay.
And so he just keeps fast forwarding time to try to get away from the grief of of Lois Lane dying.
Now
and no matter how far ahead he goes, it doesn't take away his pain because he goes through the same amount of time.
Now I have a question for you about how this power works. Does he just pop into existence 12 hours ahead? Or does the full 12 hours happen to him? Like if he was standing in the road and then went 12 hours ahead, would he like wake up like having been hit by 60 cars or like...
Yeah, I like that. Yes, that's exactly what happened. So it only goes 12 hours ahead for him.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, that was our Dial Docs for this week.
Yeah. Send yours in. #DialDoc.
Absolutely. We would love to hear what the different types of characters, the heroes or the villains that you guys can come up with.
Exactly.
So use the #DialDoc and send us your ideas.
And that was it for Doctober.
Oh my God, it is.
Doctober's over. 5 episodes.
Do we want to reveal some news this episode?
Do you know what? Let's do it.
Yeah?
Yeah. It won't be set up when this episode is, it's not like ready for when this episode has come out, but yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, okay. As sort of the pièce de résistance, second time I've used that in this episode.
Ooh.
I'm feeling very French. I think we both are.
Monsieur Ciseaux.
Monsieur Ciseaux. We are, do you like Dr. DC? Do you want more Dr. DC? Do you want some Dr. DC that maybe doesn't have to do with DC?
Yeah.
Well, we're creating some new content, some more content every week. Do you want a new episode of Dr. DC every week? Mm-hmm. You're going to get it because we're starting a Patreon.
That's right.
We've threatened it for forever,
and now your day of reckoning is upon you.
We are going to. We don't have all the specifics about it right now, but basically, very soon we are going to be releasing a Patreon account where every week you're going to get another episode of Dr. DC. We're going to talk about you gave us 20 reviews. You're going to get that review of Supernatural. The doc is going to watch that first episode, and we're going to talk about it.
Yep.
Maybe that'll turn into him watching more. Who knows?
Yeah.
But there's only one way to find out.
It'll be, like ad free and just us talking about things, reviews. It might be where we have like a real like deep conversation about the shows that we're watching, kind of go through those. I know I'm going to do a couple where I go through my comics, my comic collection and talk about some issues that are important to me.
Maybe we'll talk about some new issues that we're reading.
Totally. Yeah. It's pretty wide open for what we're going to explore, but it's going to be some new stuff that isn't bound by our sort of current format. It doesn't have to be about questions and on a specific theme or anything like that. But
and the more of you that participate in this, the more things that we can do with it, and it'll help us sort of help fund this beast that's been we've been self-funding, and now we can actually like support ourselves and pay back some of the debt that we've accrued from this.
Yeah.
But also just give you guys more content. That's what we want to do, and this will give us a way to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
So look out for that. I'm sure in the very upcoming episode, we will actually be able to announce where you can find it, and we'll start releasing episodes and giving you more information. But this is the first sort of announcement for this.
Yeah, that's right. The Patreon is coming. It's happening. And next episode, where we'll give some more details about it. Our theme for next episode, I'm finally pulling the trigger on it. I'm going to regret this, but History of the Hawks.
Oh my God.
We're doing it.
The insane history of
Hawkman, Hawkgirl, all of it. Send your questions. I'm going to cry.
So if you guys want to send us those questions, you can do through our many social media platforms, such as our Facebook,
Dr. DC Podcast.
We've got a Twitter,
at Dr. DC.
We have a photo and some questions on Instagram.
Only one photo, though. Dr. DC Podcast.
Yes. You can send us an email.
drdcpodcast@gmail.com.
We've got that subreddit where some people are asking too many fucking questions.
Yeah, you better shut your mouth. But don't really. I like that you're touching.
Yeah. Continue to talk, just not about certain specific subjects.
It's r/Dr_DC.
And then you can also not only talk to us, but you can read some of our DC specific articles that'll help explain some of the insanity like this Blackest Night. If you want to learn more about these different characters or about the weird sort of universe that is DC, you can do so through our website,
which is drdcpodcast.com or .ca.
And you can find our merch there and buy some shirts for us and show how much you love us, not only through this
buy shirts for us.
Yeah. Well, it helps me. So
buy the shirts and send them to us. We really need shirts.
Oh, yeah.
That's why we're starting this Patreon.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We need a fucking shirt, man.
And then don't forget to subscribe. Rate us 5 stars, write us a review on iTunes, and subscribe to the podcast. It really helps us out. And
just a quick little plug. We're part of the Brain Freeze.
That's right.
Podcast network. There are other great podcasts to listen to that we're in wonderful company. There's things like the Hate Locker, Squeezebox Podcast, Project Weird, Goods from the Woods, Headbangers with Homes.
Really, really great, and more coming all the time. So definitely check that out. You can go on brainfreezepodcast.com and you can check out the other podcasts, and they're all available on iTunes or all those different platforms you guys listen to.
Yeah.
Good job, partner.
Well, trying to pull my weight.
I like it. With that, we'll see you same doc time, same doc channel.
Adios.
Ciao. It's fucking stupid.
Superman, Aquaman, all the superheroes. They always fight for what is right. Live with danger and adventure.